What's going on, Illumineers, and welcome back to the Madhouse. And man, does time fly when you're having fun because we are already going into week 3 of the LCCC, the legendary cross-continental clash. Unfortunately, we do have some sad news. We do have some eliminated champions, all right? This is a double elimination. Once you've lost twice, you are out of the running. So we lost Diego Saz, level 9001. We lost Mo the Rat and the OG Red Blue God himself, Sailor. Now on the left side of the screen, we do have standings. And if you look at this black box, that's kind of a box of honor because these 4 champions are currently 2-0. All right, we have Moyen versus Zan, Kurt versus Artabax, and then the bottom 4 or 8, I guess, would be Theo versus Federico, Spessie versus Bivvens, LD versus Domingo, and Ed versus DKP. Now, this LD versus Domingo match is going to be really exciting because if you watched week 1, you should remember that they've already faced off against each other. The random wheel chose them again. So we're going to have the match of the century. They're competing to stay in the event, to get the crown, to steal the crown from Bivens, and they're competing just kind of for honor and glory to see which one of us are going to come out on top. All right, is it going to be a repeat of last time? Or are we going to change the wheel? But let's get into it real quick, though. I wanted to show off what colors are still in it. We have lost Baja Blast. That was Mo. We lost Green Yellow. That was Diego Saz. We lost Red Blue. That was Sailor. And we have lost 1 Blue Steel with the Rat. Of course, our head judge is still here rocking and rolling. And here's your pairings again on the right. Looking forward, here we go. We have our first set of lists. I did something a little bit different this time. Please let me know in the comments if you liked this so it's easier to compare, or if you just want to see the current deck list and you can look it up yourself. Just let me know. I can go back or I can keep doing this. But the lists, okay, over here on the left side of the screen, we have week 2, and on the right side of the screen, we have week 3. Now looking, there are quite a few changes in this list. We look at the Pete. The Pete's gone completely. It's gotten to the point now where Moyen's like, do I need the Pete? If I'm gonna draw so many cards, if it doesn't matter. Can I use this for more important things? And in this case, if you look over here, you'll see that he added babooms. And these babooms letting you kind of hold off those aggro matches earlier on. We saw this is kind of important, not so much for the LCCC, but we did see kind of that coming alive of green purple in the discard deck with all the Diablos. So Baboom could help you answer that. So for you blue steel players, now for this, it's not going to do as much, especially going against Zan. But if you have a bunch of Babooms, that is damage. If they're just sitting in your hand, it's free ink. You could take out a Scrooge, like all those things. I'll let the Storm Rage on, and a Baboom takes out a McDuck as well. So there are options. They're not dead cards. The Great Stone Dragon coming in, that when you're running so many characters, you're trying to get Bell on turn 1, Tipo on turn 2, Scrooge McDuck for free on turn, 3 or 4, not 3, but 4, 5. Greatstone Dragon just kind of makes sense. It helps you in those red-blue matchups. It helps you with the blue-steel matchups. The ability to just turn those characters in your discard into ink that you so desperately need, because you can get to those turns where you're like Tamatoa and Lucky Dime in the same turn and exert the Lucky Dime, and I'm going to get all of that lore from all of these different items. And it is just another item as well. So we did see, though, that he did drop one of the fishbone quills to make room for the dragon. That's kind of what you would normally see, but we did see the addition of a Hades, and you see that a lot in a lot of blue steel lists that are coming, that the Hades just being so good at answering just about anything, but mostly the opponent's Tamatoas, right? But it can be an emergency way to answer their baby Tamatoa. It can answer a Flaversham. Like, it has a lot of options, but answering a big Tamatoa, Hades is one of the best ways to do it for blue steel. And then, of course, we do see the drop in the Let the Storm Rage on. When you're running 3 Babooms, you don't really need it. I mean, why run that extra uninkable when Baboom is technically doing the same thing? You're just not singing it. In worst case scenario, if you're in a blue steel mirror, you can just ink it, be done with it, move on with your life. So yeah, so quite a few changes. Of course, the cannon being gone as well, saying I don't need that when I have the babooms and the Hades and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. But next up, we do have Zan. Now, let's look at what Zan has done with his list. And I am looking at the week 2 list that he used with Bivvens last night. So with this list, he did cut the Mickey Mouses completely. And he kind of talked about this a little bit in the interview portion of his match yesterday, in that Mickey Mouse is just really not great into Steel Song. If Steel Song starts to really ramp up, you don't really want that card because then you just get wheeled, and wheeled is a really good win condition into these heavy draw decks. It actually happened to Zan at the L triple, or not the it happened to him at the CCS 13K. One of his opponents, game one, he did mill Zan, and that was his game one loss. And then game two, he quested to 20. And so that he did take a match loss against that Steel Song player at the CCS. So I think taking out Mickey, it is important. The ink is nice, but at the same time, with so much blue steel, with Steel Song kind of coming up too, then you don't want to be milling yourself in that way. You don't want to get to those turns where you're trying to, like, now all of a sudden you don't know what you inked, and that hurts, and then you're down an extra card against the other 60 card deck. So I think that's a really heads up move. And then you'll see that they dropped one Visions. Again, when you're drawing all these cards with Tamatoa and the Flaversham and the Visions and the Sail, you're cycling with the items. Do you really need it? Like, sure, there are turns where there's games where it's going to come in handy. But when you're drawing so much, when you're cycling so much, you'll most likely see the rest of them. All right. So we see the one Pete goes up. We see the Let the Storm Rage On goes up, and the Scrooge McDuck goes up. So that Let the Storm Rage On, not going to be super helpful in this matchup. That Scrooge McDuck, though, being a really big deal. Again, I think Scrooge McDuck is just so good. That ability, you get a 4/4 character for free, or in worst case scenario, it's just you play Flaversham, you play the duck for 4 on the next turn, you get an item, so now you can throw that item down, and then you can quest with Flaversham, and Flaversham can then draw you 2 more, and it just feeds the engine. And then best case scenario, you go Baby Tamatoa next turn, feed the engine again, and it's just this never-ending, vicious, disgusting cycle of, oh god. So, just not great, right? But so then we see that the list is developing. Zan started with, this heavy kind of combo thing with the workshops and the Oswalds, and then he's kind of moving over to kind of what we actually saw Moyen running last week, with more of a mid-rangey kind of control variant. So we'll see how this goes. I think it's going to be a good match. The lists are similar. Blue Steel, it all seems to be flowing in the same direction, unless you end up at that kind of Kiwi version. So we'll see how it goes. It'll be a great match between two really great players. And these are also the team captains for their teams. Moving on, we have Kurt versus Artabax, and this is really fun. Like, this is really fun. You'll see Artabax's list in a second, but Kurt, look at all these X's down here. Kurt just went with an incredibly, just changed it all up, and I love it. He went with this pirate theme. So instead of putting a whole bunch of plus signs over here, I just left it alone. The only thing I included were the green arrows to show things that he did increase, and then the rest of the deck is pretty much brand new, other than the staple green items or green things. We see the Diablo shift line, the Ursula, because it's just such a great card. The Shift Pete, another really, really good card. And then we see this pirate package, the locations. This is very cool. We saw pirates do really good at the Hunter Burton Championship, where they took top 8. No Daisy Ducks in this list, so it is different, right? There are no Daisy Ducks in this list. And I got to admit, playing that list, I do really love those Daisy Ducks, but I could understand why you don't want to run them. So this one went a little bit away from the whole pirate theme 100%, and just went in a slightly different direction with more locations, and actually quite a bit more locations. And I'm still here also coming in just being really, really annoying as well. I really like that addition. So Yeah, I like it. Uninkable count actually is 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 uninkables, which is, not the lowest, right? But you are singing these seven, and that feels pretty good. Doc refilling things. So I think it's going to be fun. And I love the complete change in everything you're trying to do. Kurt always showing up with something really exciting. Next up, though, we do have artifacts and the same thing. Look at all these X's on the left side of the screen, and then look at all the not plus signs. And again, I didn't add plus signs because this whole thing would just be a bunch of plus signs. So artifacts just went an entirely different direction, and he kind of joined the crew, right? He left his kind of tempo version, and he's like, I'm gonna try out something new. I'm gonna try this whole craze of just drawing a bunch of cards and getting to these lucky dimes, and we'll see how it goes. When I first saw this list, I actually thought I was kept pasting Moyen's list because it's very similar. We see the Babooms, we see Tipo Bell. So there are differences, but just seeing the Baboom when we didn't see any Baboom in the previous 2 weeks, I just thought I was copying and pasting Moyen's list. But over here, we do see Fire the Cannons. So Fire the Cannons just really great at answering the Diablos, answering um if there was Steel Song, right? If he was to, pair against Bivvens, he could answer Cinderella. Just a great, the list just does a lot. And I think this is a list, again, that would see a lot of success even outside of the LCCC. Those Fire the Cannons stopping shift targets, the Baboom stopping them, Bell singing Let the Storm Rage On stopping them as well. We're seeing this green purple discard come up in the ranks, and so we see Blue Steel already changing their game plan to combat that. And I don't know if that green purple is going to last another week. I really don't. With this many answers to those Diablos, it's going to be really rough for them. But talking about this, it's going to be a fun match. It really is. Artabax is going to have his hands full though with, if this list gets going, we've seen what happens when Diablo can go into an Ursula, and then maybe you do sing Diablo unless you saw just way too many answers for Diablo. So maybe you leave it alone. But then if you go John Silver and they can't answer that John Silver, and then you drop, to one or two locations the next turn, there's nothing Blue Steel is doing for quite a while. There is two Zeuses, so that is an option that to answer that John Silver. Just it's going to be really important for Artifacts to win the dice roll. More important than normal, I think, just because he has to be able to answer that John Silver before all the locations come down. Because he does have Hades to help answer it. The Zeuses will, of course, do a lot, but if two locations come down on turn 4 when John Silver was played on turn 3, even a Zeus will answer John Silver. There is that. So a Zeus would still do the job. So there are answers. It's going to winning the dice roll is going to be really, really important. So this one I'm really, really excited to see. I love me some Green Steel Pirates. And then I just love that both players just went a completely different direction. So the interview is going to be really fun. Next up on our list, though, we do have Ed versus DKP. Ed kind of changing up his list in kind of a major way. He changed 8 cards in total. He completely cut the big Tamatoas. He completely cut How Far I'll Go, which is wild. That How Far I'll Go just being such a staple in Red Blue, that ability to get you ink and draw you a card after normally singing it with Grandma Tala or Flaversham is just really powerful. We've also seen Maui singing it a lot. So to see that go away is really interesting. But when we see what was added, we do see the Lady Tremaines and we do see the Cuscos coming in. And really interesting. I love how Ed threw these Lady Tremaines in, going back to his red purple roots, right? And then the Cusco coming in as well, 4 of them. Just I'm ready to answer every single manner you play. I'm ready to answer every single item you play. If you want to play a lucky dime, if you cheat it out, I'm ready. I have an answer. You're never going to see it again. When that Cusco comes down, remember it goes to your inkwell. It does not go to your discard pile. So there's no bringing it back at that point unless you're playing Ink Geyser, which nobody in here anymore is playing Ink Geyser. And then the rest of it, Ed is just controlling the board, right? We see the Sizus, the Sapphire Coils, the Dragons, the Mauis, Tremaines. One thing to keep in mind, Cusco, that secret ability, right? The ability to give +1 resist to your character or to a character. And then it does quest for 2, which is something to note as well. This again, these are two-liners, right? If you did 8, these are two-liners. So Ed just going and doing what Ed normally does in a really consistent list. There's no one-ofs, there's no two-ofs. I'm going to guarantee I see the cards that I want to see, only the good ones. So I like this. I think it's really interesting. You get to that turn, maybe your opponent B preps you, then you just Tremaine after Tremaine, Tremaine just answering things, warded characters. Um, I'll be interested to see how Tremaine performs. I'm not as optimistic about Lady Tremaine in red blue as I would be red purple, but I'm interested to see what Ed can do with it. And I think Cusco is just a really heads up move. But moving on, we do have DKP's list, the opponent of Ed, and this might be a rematch as well. Oh, I should have looked before we started, but looking at this list, not a whole lot of changes. We see Goofy going down and Tamatoa coming down, and that one's interesting. So, in how the weeks have gone, is week 1, there were 4 super groups and 2 Tamatoas. Now, going into week 3, we're down to 2 super groups and 2 Tamatoas again. So, I think one thing that DKP noticed is that I only run 4 popsicles. So that Tamatoa is just not as good as it is in most blue decks. If I do have a popsicle that I pop with the Flaversham, awesome. I high rolled, it's really good. But that 6 cost when this deck is doing so much cycling and other things, the Tamatoa is just not as effective in this deck. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tamatoa eventually get cut completely. 4 items is not a lot of support for this card. It's not feeding the engine super well unless, I mean, if you do start and you get these 2 in your opening hand, maybe that changes how you also cycle through your deck with your visions, your develops and stuff, because now if you have the Flaversham or the Popsicle, then you're more apt to keep the Tamatoa, things like that. So I could see that, but one thing to note is we do see DKP go up to 61 cards in this list. And we do see the Grammatala come back as a Grammatala, just a great way to deal with the aggro list, but also seeing how far I'll go, which really good. And then the Hades being able to answer those Tamatoas without forcing you to B prep. And that is really good. Sometimes you don't want to B prep your own board. So Hades is just a great way to do it. Now, one thing to note with the Hades is this deck normally stops at like 6 ink. And or DKP can very comfortably play it at 5 ink and only go to 6 when he really needs to. Now, uh, now, now what's going to happen is that he might need to be more cautious, right? He might need to go to 6 and then kind of sit there at 6 ink and go to 7. And it's just there's more cards at 7 ink now. There's more inkables that are at 7 ink. But when you have the TPO can get rid of those cards. And that's not bad either. You know, the TPO being that way to claw yourself out of a bricked hand because you play it, you go to 3 ink, you're already that much closer to being able to dig yourself out of danger with those cards. So again, I love seeing the slight changes. DKP, never massive things. It's always very small. It's always, 2, 3 cards and just minor tweaks. How does it feel? How do I miss this card with this change? Did I need this card that I took out? Do I wish I saw more of this card? And do I need to up the numbers there? Always minor things. And I love seeing how the list develops. Next up on our list, we do have Bivvens versus Spessie, and this is going to be a really interesting match. And when we look at Bivvens' list, he made quite a big change, and you'll see that he added in this Prince Naveen. One thing we saw last night in his match with Zan is that even Bianca was getting answered. That Gaston gets answered rather easily. If they just Zeus your Bianca before you can sing Whole New World, then you're in trouble. Steel Song lives and dies typically by Whole New World, the ability to cast it early. We can still get to that victory by hard casting it for 5, but if we can sing it, it's probably just game over at that point, and there's just not a lot anyone can do to stop it. So we see Prince Naveen coming in, a way to just guarantee your ability to sing Whole New World. It's a little bit harder to manage resources. You can't keep something you could keep Gaston and Whole New World in your opening hand very happily. Like last set, that you almost always you could keep that and you'd be very happy with things. But Prince Naveen, just it's a lot harder to do because now you're keeping two high cost uninkables in your hand. You might end up skipping turn one a lot because you need the extra ink to get there. So just things to keep in mind. I love Prince Naveen. It's slowly going to start finding its way back into my list as well. And possibly Bianca leaving, I don't know. That's a story for another time. As far as this goes, though, we see the Prince Naveen's coming in, and the Lawrence is coming back up. This Lawrence just being such a powerhouse, a great Rapunzel target, questing for 2. We see the Smee come back up, and an additional Nala as well. Another great Rapunzel target, just questing for 1. And then we cut the Find 'em Platinum. We did go down 1 Let the Storm Rage On. So if you look over here, we're only on 2 Let the Storm Rage On. And the reason for this is that there's just not a lot to hit on Blue Steel. They run so many 3/3 characters. The Kiwi version running Calhoun, which is 3/2. So Let the Storm Rage On just getting a little bit worse every single week. When you see a 325 person event and 30% are on Blue Steel, it's hard to make an argument to continue to run Let the Storm Rage On. DeCandio used to talk about how there's going to be a time where you might have to cut some of this Cinderella Let the Storm Rage On, Strength of a Raging Fire piece, that 12 card piece. And we see it start happening here. 3 Cinderella, 2 Let the Storm Rage On. It's just not as good, right? But here's the problem, right? Here's the kicker. Here's the biggest problem with starting to cut those is what happens if you play against purple. Let the Storm Rage On, a Cindy on 1 on the play almost guarantees you the win against a purple deck. The ability to control their cantrips, the ability to control their bounce targets, it's almost game over. But now Bivvens is only on 3 Cinderella and 2 Let the Storm Rage On. So it's going to be that much harder for him to control all of these baby cards. And it's the one match that Bivvens did not want to see with this list. The other thing to note, this World's Greatest Criminal Mind, completely useless in this matchup. Completely 100% useless. It's in there because of red blue, because of blue steel, and now it does nothing. So it's awful, awful, awful top decks. Easy ink. So there is that. You have easy ink now. But Bivens trying to play into all this blue steel, this red blue, has now made the matchup that much more difficult into purple steel. This is the one matchup he did not want to see because it's going to be really hard to wheel this kind of deck. Unless you wheel really, really early, then you probably aren't wheeling at all. So this is going to be interesting. This is definitely a match you won't want to miss just to see how it goes. And purple steel just showing that it can kind of just sit there, let the rest of the meta develop. And I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to do these aggro things. I'm going to use Doc to draw all my cards, draw Gathering Knowledge. I'm going to draw more with Karamikon and play these Cobras and these goats, these Maleficents early. Honey Marin also, it's just wild. But when we look at what changes Spessie has made, he cut the binges completely. He said, it's not worth my time. And it's really not. This deck is going way too fast to want to worry about that. And then we cut 1 Fire the Cannons and went 4 Fairy Ships. Really a heads up move as well. I'm really on board with that because now you have all of these 1-drops. You have 4, 8, 12, 16, 21 drops. So you can kind of do the whole Mo thing with green purple that we saw him do at the North American Championships, where you go turn 1 drop, turn 2 double 1-drops, turn 3 maybe you bounce one of those 1-drops. So Fairy Ship becomes a really good play against blue steel on turn 1 because what are they gonna do, right? They can't hit your fairy ship yet. If they do, like turn 2, you drop 2 1 drops. Now, are they going to take out your fairy ship? Are they gonna take out your 1 drops? Meanwhile, now you have a snake or a fox coming down. It just gets really dangerous and it works really well. So this list, again, one thing I will have to say is this list is it's probably only like $70 right now, if not cheaper. The most expensive card in it being the probably Doc or Fox. So if you guys want a list that is going to be competitive, going to take your opponents by surprise, just do aggro things and that you could run all day, I would give this a check. I mean, it's not going to cost you, most likely you have most of it anyways. Probably $60 deck. But really interesting match. Another one, of course. I keep saying it about all of them because they're all so good. You guys have to see these games, okay? Make sure you keep an eye out. Go to LCCC.live, and that's where Pavel puts all the matches as he announces them and where you can watch them, okay? You have to go watch them. You have to. Next up, though, we do have Theo versus Federico. And on this list, Theo has made some changes, right? We look at what he's cut. He's cut 4 different cards completely and added 4 and or added 3 and we see 2 of the or one set of cards, 2 of those cards being Maurice's workshop. And I love Maurice's workshop. In these heavy item decks, the ability to just get that workshop down and then just go crazy. It is wild. I've seen these blue steel decks. They're on 0 cards. They top deck a Maurice's workshop. They play it. Next thing you know, they're in an infinite amount of cards, and you don't even understand how it happened, why it happened. What did you do wrong? Nothing. They got the workshop. One thing to note is we are only on 1 lucky dime. So that if that lucky dime gets taken out by a Cusco or a hideaway that we see a lot of people running these days, you are going to be in trouble. Now, there is no Cusco, but there is a hideaway in Federico's list. Spoiler, right? But when we look at the list, we see the last cannons coming up. The cannon showing a lot of success, right? That ability to just trade into things. Tipo can now trade into things. Smee can take out a baby Tamatoa. Scrooge can take out a baby Tamatoa. Like, you get the idea. These characters being able to take out baby Tamatoas. It's really, really good. We see the Hades come in. I talked about this earlier. Hades, just a really good way to answer big Tamatoa is that 5'8" body. Sure, you can do it with strength, you can do it with Zeus, but you have to have the characters and you have to have 2 of them or 2 Zeuses to do it. So it's not easy, but Hades makes it very, very, very easy to do so. And then we do see Zeus coming up, going all the way up to 4 Zeuses from 2. So this list, you're running 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 16, 17, 18 items. So that workshop going to be able to get you a lot of draw. Of course, you run the overpowered Bell package here, the Scrooge Tamatoa package that is so strong with the big Tamatoa. Really, I like the list. I think it'll be interesting. It's not the item combo deck that we've seen before with Oswald's or the Chichas, right? That we saw Sky play, but it's still going to do some things. And it's possible because you have things like Bell, Scrooge McDuck coming down, cheating those down early, the Smee helping you protect the board, even the Tipo because of the last cannon. So looking at this list, how's it going to do though against Federico? Now, Federico did make changes this week. Not a lot. 3 cards, right? I had to make sure I was holding up a 3, but 3 cards this week. He's doing the whole DKP thing where he added 1 baby Tamatoa and 1 Great Stone Dragon. So he changed 2 cards. Yeah, he changed 2 cards, okay? He does not have a hideaway either. So scratch what I said earlier. That spoiler, it was a trick. I gotcha. There is no hideaway in Federico's list this week, okay? That means that 1 lucky dime is here to stay. So that is really exciting. There's nothing that Federico can do. And I guess, Theo took a risk and it paid off. He can get that lucky dime down and it's going to stay the rest of the game. We do see Federico go down to 1 B prep. And I think we're seeing that. We're seeing lists that cut B prep completely. Normally, though, they run 4 Sizus and 4 Sizus, so not as much overall removal in this list. We still have 2 Medusas, but Medusa is not the same as a board wipe, right? Medusa is not the same as a Sizu coming down on turn 5 with Sapphire Coil already down and clearing an entire board. So it's going to be interesting. This list, not having that hideaways is an interesting choice, but if you can control the entire board, then they're never going to be able to lucky dime anything to begin with. So you don't have a great way to answer Tamatoa. You do have Sapphire Coil, right, and Medusa, which is a good way. If you get those coils down when they don't have any item removal either, it's going to be really easy to do it. So I take that back. And then of course you do have Let It Go and B Prep. So now you have plenty of answers. Don't listen to me. And then of course the win condition, or one of them being Pirate's Life and Maui Half Shark, and the McDuck Manners. So changing 2 cards, we'll see how it does. Will you be able to stay in it? Who's going to win this one? Next up though, we do have LD versus Domingo. In this version, we do see that LD has stuck with the Kiwi version, right? And with his list, he does still have the Sticky Mickey. He has cut Doc completely. He's completely off Doc and cut the Benja and cut the Sorcerer. Now, really interesting choice cutting that Doc completely. But I wonder if LD's just like, hey, I'm okay. I don't need it that bad. The times where I brick on the dock versus the times I get to use it outnumber. And I think that's why he came to that conclusion. If you have the Flavershams, then maybe you consider that in your opening mulligan. I don't have docks. I'm not going to draw into it. So I need to make sure I keep these Flavershams, things like that. Or you just have the perfect Wombo combo going into it. Remember, their perfect turn 1, they get to replace that card in their hand with Popsicle or Fortisphere to play that bell. And then you go Anna or Smee into an Alice, into a Pluto, into a Cogsworth, and you just win because that is disgusting. So just really interesting. We do see the Chin Pose come in, so even more bodyguard. And I think that's really good that we've seen how easy it is to remove Pluto for Blue Steel. When they have all these baby characters down, you just throw one into the Pluto because you don't care, and then you answer the rest of the Pluto just perfectly fine. The other issue with Pluto is how many Blue Steel decks are running Zeus. Almost all of them, so that Pluto just doesn't do a great job of living anymore. But Chin Po comes in, trades with like everything, and you're not Zeusing him to remove him, especially if you played a Cogsworth the turn before. If you have a Cogsworth down into a Chin Po, that guy, that big boy is not going anywhere anytime soon. We do have a lot of Hades, though. That is something to note. Blue Steel has started adding those Hades. Red Blue does have Be Prepared and the Coils and Medusas and Brawls. But against the massive amount of Blue Steel, Chinpo is a pretty safe bet. So just doing Kiwi things, we do see the Manor come up as well. And I think this is really important because you get this big board and then they can just play a Manor on 4, and that's really dangerous as well because now your opponent has to figure out, how do I answer these characters that are questing for 2 while also answering this manner that is just so annoying because the characters aren't going to stop. Every turn you draw, you're going to play another character. So you play this manner on 4, your opponent has to answer the Bell, the Anna, like the Alice, and then the manner as well. So it gets really, really tough to deal with. Really good list. I think Kiwi is here to stay. I really do. Sorry, I can't call it Kiwi. This one has Anna. So Anna is the Ali suite. Let me know if I'm saying that wrong. But I'm gonna just keep going with it. Ali was on a recent podcast and said, I think we should try Anna. And Harlan's like, no, we're not going to. So we'll see how it goes. Is Anna the way forward? Is Kiwi gone? Do we need a new name for it, right? That's the question. Let me know. But I think this is a fun list. I do. I haven't jumped on it because I just there's too much Blue Steel, but I do like Kiwi. I think it's really neat, really great tempo, and just tough to deal with. So last up on the game, though, last up on the roster, we do have Domingo, our European champion at their Continentals. And what's he doing? Another red purple list, completely different. And this is another red purple list that we saw win this past weekend. I didn't look if it's card for card, but we have seen Domingo just having a good time. He ran his mill deck, and then the week after that, he ran Terrace's deck that was getting, pretty popular. And then now he's running this list that I think is the same as the one that won this past weekend. So I love it. I think it's really cool. Domingo just trying out these different lists, getting them, making them popular, showing that red purple is not dead. All right. Red purple is here to stay. And I think the title of this list was even red purple dead question mark. But looking at the list, we have cut the balance package. The balance package is, this might just be Ed's list, actually. Yeah, anyway, we cut the bounce package completely, okay? And that's why it makes me think it might be Ed's list, but because Ed wrote an article about why we might want to cut the bounce package. So here we see no goats, we see no foxes, no snakes, no roses, no, well, other than library. And then we just see characters. We see characters, we see library. We're kind of doing what Blurple does in the sense that Blurple just continually plays cards and then quests and gets there. Now they ramp, right? But this is just more of a tempo version, and where you have these 12 cantrips, you have Cusco to draw, Queen of Hearts being surprisingly annoying. I really didn't think this would be a great card, but having 4 health just makes her so difficult because your opponent has to deal with it somehow. With everything is 3 health, Queen of Hearts can just, hit into something and then, or just quest for 1 and be annoying that way. But she can hit into something. Now it becomes 3 attack with, no, 4 attack with 1 health remaining. But now how do they answer it, right? How does Blue Steel answer it without losing that character completely? So Queen of Hearts really, really bothersome and really annoying. We see the Sizu come in with all these decks that are drawing so many cards. Sizu is just getting more and more popular. She's getting so good. Her attack is always incredibly high. The Maui's coming back up again, helping answer all the other tempo. And then, of course, you have the ladies. They've been a staple for so long because they're just so good. So this list, another reason it makes me think it might be Ed's on the 2-liner with the 4. So again, I only want to see the good cards. I only want to see the cards that are going to help me win, that are going to help me get there. And it's a great way to do it when you only run 4 of everything. So ladies and gentlemen, these are all the lists. This is week 3 of the LCCC. Again, these are your standings. These are your matchups. Make sure you guys stick around. There's so many great games to look out for. I think the one I'm most excited for is probably Kurt versus Artabax because their lists are just so different. And I love the whole pirate idea. Spessie versus Bivvens is going to be a really good one. I'm really interested to see what happens by cutting that Cinderella and they let the Storm Rage on. Like, it's just going to be a really good week. The team captain versus team captain is going to be really exciting. Just a great week of Lorcana. And I think the first match is actually tomorrow. I'm going to get this video posted tonight, which is the 25th of March. And the first match, I believe, is tomorrow. All right. So keep an eye out for that announcement at LCCC live. Again, huge shout out to Pavel for making this happen, Phil for judging, all the players, all the casters. I'm going to sign off. Before I go, remember, nothing else matters more. Stay happy and healthy. I'll see you next time.